Hi, everybody. So let's get Christina here with us. We were just trying to do this before, and we had some technical difficulties. So there we go. Let's see. Alrighty. Woo! We're doing it, babies. We're doing it. Alrighty. So here we go. We are waiting for Christina to join us. We're hearing the lovely sounds of New York City. Can you hear the sirens? It's not just in the movies, y'all. It's real. Anyway, all right, great. So we're waiting for Christina. Here she is. Christina. Oh, perfect. Oh, it says I dig to learn is unable to join. Not quite sure what that's about. But let's see if we're going to give Christina a couple minutes. So I wanted to tell you, so the idea for Solutionaries came from something that I coined when I was doing my first PDC in a public school here in Queens, New York. And I was talking to the kids about how what I wanted, what I hoped, that they could take what they were learning, their critical thinking skills, their design thinking, this toolbox that comes with being a permaculture designer, and they would be able to I think I know what I did wrong. And they would be able to hold on. I think I know what I did wrong. And maybe it wasn't even me, but it's okay. Hi, there you are. We made it. We figured it out.
Great to see you.
Oh, it's wonderful to see you. Hi, Daniela.
Hi.
Daniela did not mean to be part of this live, but look at her. She's so fabulous. We're happy to
Hi,
have you anyway.
Daniela.
Hi, Christina. Pleasure to meet you.
You too. You too.
Daniela, I think I accidentally brought you in, so you don't have to hang out. It's totally okay, but you're more than welcome to. So, Christina, where are you calling us from? Where are we talking to you from?
First of all, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me on this
We're
journey.
so happy to have you.
I really, really appreciate it. I wanted to bring everyone to this beautiful Roosevelt Island community garden. And this is really where a lot of the members had supported I Dig to Learn early on. So I thought, why not be in this beautiful Roosevelt Island Community Garden, which is Manhattan, but you would never know it, except for the helicopter.
I remember one time, because so little background. Christina and I met in 2016, same day that I met the equally fabulous Eric Bernal, who does amazing sustainability education at the high school in West Harlem. And we were all at a grant seminar. That is how we met. And then we gained. I know, isn't that wild?
I actually don't even remember that. So it's great because it was think back.
I think that it was a very short seminar, and we all connected. You went and visited Eric's program at his high school.
That I remember. That was amazing.
Yeah.
Uptown.
And so did I. Yeah, Uptown, exactly. I went to go visit his sustainability club, and then later I did a 6-part design workshop with them.
Wow.
6-part permaculture design workshop with them. Yeah, it was great. It was really fun.
I do remember that. They had the beautiful green roof on the top, glass house up there on the top.
Yeah,
of the
greenhouse
school. That's really lucky. Yeah.
And then we stayed in touch. And you took me. Somebody asked me, "How do you know Christina?" I'm like, "Oh my God, Christina's the best. We've stayed friends over the years." And then you took me to see that Al Gore documentary.
Mm,
Remember,
right.
he
Oh
was
my goodness.
there. It was it the follow up to his original one? And there was like a Q&A afterwards with him.
Wow.
And you took me to that, which was so cool. But I say that just kind of give back into what I've said about Solutionaries, which is I was inspired to do this because I have a lot of wonderful friends like you who do amazing things in the world. And I really wanted other people to get to hear about it. So, welcome. You are our
Thank
first guest, and we're so happy to have you.
you.
And I remember when I came to visit you because I told you I wanted to come see you. So I came out and you took me to that community garden. And
Yeah.
it's huge. For New York City, it's really big.
Yeah, we're lucky to have space on Roosevelt Island, which, if, for people who don't know, it's in the middle of the New York Estuary, aka East River.
Yeah. And one of the things that struck me was just how people's personalities come out. Because there's how many plots are in that garden?
I feel like it might be 140 or more, but as you tour the space, you're really getting a glimpse of every country and what people know how to grow. And it can be vegetables and food from their origin country, or flowers, or
Mm-hmm.
built structures using solar panels to make their pond go. And it's just kind of exciting. And it gives you a chance to slow down and stop and talk to people. It's kind of like a socially acceptable excuse to be outdoors
Yeah.
and wander and look and think and meet people. So that's really lovely. And there are a lot of community gardens in New York. I think there's 1,500, something like that, community gardens in New York City, under the green thumb, and then those that aren't under the green thumb. So
Right.
these
Right.
these are spaces people should really take advantage of.
Yeah. And anytime, I think most community gardens have a long waiting list in New York City because there's very few for the 8 million of us that live here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
To
same,
have that
same.
many gardens and have 8 million
I'm
people.
pretty
Woo.
sure we waited about 6 years. So, it's really precious to have it and get other people involved. And we host school groups, and that really helps get young minds actively engaged in these beautiful spaces.
Right, right. Right. Yeah, no, for sure. Well, then that's another thing. Like when I think about the things that have bonded us, the things that we have in common outside of um, outside of our love of like gardening and concern for concern for our environment and
Yeah.
awareness of climate chaos. These are all of the things that we, you, me, and Eric shared and the people who were in that grant seminar that day, but also
Yeah.
just a love. I know this because we've talked about it. Our love of teaching children,
That's so true. I mean,
right? We both love to teach
yeah,
children.
and
It's
and
so
I was
fun.
trying to think about it, why we started I Dig to Learn. And you know I have my fond memories growing up and being able to play in a creek in the woods. And
Yes.
so that was set in my heart. And then my grandparents were in Rye Purchase, New York, and they of Italian descent came, and they had the tomatoes in the backyard,
Of
the
course.
sweet peppers, the hot peppers. And all of us got to see that when we visited, and the apple trees. And so I feel like it's set in deep inside the brain from an early age, and then it went dormant for a very, very long time.
Yeah.
And I did a lot of media work working with children. And
Yeah.
I kind of joke it's from puppets to plants now, right? So hanging out with Big Bird and Grover, and then really
When you,
loving.
I want to pause you for a moment because I want you to tell everyone what you mean by that media work. Because when you told me that, I was like, "What? That is so cool!"
It was a great stint. Like right out of school, I got a really good opportunity to work with Sesame Street. And what you realize quickly is that there's a whole bunch of girls and guy puppeteers that are getting permission to dress up and play with dolls all day long, and entertain the public. And it gave me a chance to tap into that playful side. And also, as an executive producer and vice president for a good chunk of years there, I was able to take some kind of complex thoughts and really reduce them down to something simple. So
Yes.
that works for children, but and preschoolers, but
Yes.
it definitely works for all ages when you have something complex that's hard to understand, maybe like climate change, very difficult to understand. And then just to break it down into very simple things like, do you like water, sky, and land? Yes. Do you need those things? Yes. Would you like to take care of those things? Yes. And here's how. Sometimes the information is a little overwhelming. So,
Yeah.
love of children, just like you. And when we first met, I just didn't know a lot about permaculture and
Mm-hmm.
how everything is connected. So we
Right.
started straight on with gardening with children, thanks to a local school and a
Yeah.
local youth center. And one of my favorite buddies there, Tony, and I see that he's joined. He,
Tony.
hi
Tony.
Tony,
Oh, hi,
he's
Tony.
he he and I were just like designing and working in this youth center garden for children. And I would always say, but I don't know how to build this, or I don't know how to do this. And Tony would just say, you know, there are instructions for everything, right? Simple.
Yeah.
You can learn by reading the instructions. So that's how we kind of started with I Dig to Learn. We had a great friend, Pamela Peters, who said, listen, why don't you want to be outdoors, you want to be with children, you love gardening, why don't you apply for a grant? And Grow NYC and Citizens Committee for New York City gave us a seed money. And then the school and the local youth center were like, sure, let's try this. And we
Mm-hmm.
were off and running. That was 11 years ago.
Oh my God. That's amazing. You know, I think that now as you are telling everyone else your story, I'm remembering because I, like you, also started gardening with my grandparents in Chile.
Oh, yeah, you
That's
told me
the,
about that. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I think that you and I had a similar kind of
Yeah.
background that way. And also with my love of nature was super strong when I was a child. And once we left Chile and we moved to the United States, we lived in the deep south, a
Uh-huh.
lot of woods. We're living in
Yeah.
trailer park towns and
Yeah.
woods all around us. And so I spent a lot of time in the creeks, uh, collecting things and really loving the freedom of being in nature. And then I didn't reconnect to that actually, because I moved to New York City, and then it wasn't until I lived in Southeast Alaska that I started
Wow.
to reconnect to that
Can't get
love of
more nature than that,
curiosity.
right?
Yeah, that I just all of my curiosity took over, my wanting to understand and know what I was seeing and why. And I was living in a tiny little town that had been created by a glacier coming through and
Wow.
cutting a mountain in half. And
Well, we
then
have
when
those
after
glacier
the
rocks too in
yeah, so
Central
after the
Park. Yeah.
glacier left, the land rose and
Wow.
above the water line. So it was this tiny town in between two rivers. So it can't grow wider. It can't grow longer because it's on the ocean. It's in the bay. So it was a fjord. I lived in a fjord, and that just fascinated me. So I get it, and that's where I reconnected to my love of nature and plants, and learned how to grow food as an
That's
adult.
exciting. Yeah, I know.
Because when
It's
I
like
was
fast
little, I don't
forward
know what I
several
did.
decades. I know, right? And then all of a sudden the light bulb goes and you're like, "Wait, food comes from the soil?" What?
Yeah, I think for me it was really powerful because one of the things that happened, and you might be able to relate to this as someone who grew up with family members who were growing vegetables, is
Yeah.
that I'm in my early 50s. In the 70s, when I was growing up in Chile, some people had refrigerators. I mean, I come from working class coal mining town in southern Chile.
Sure.
So some people had refrigerators, some people didn't. We had a refrigerator, but my grandma never used it because she wanted to go to the market every single day. That is what she did. Every day she went to the market and she got what she needed for that day. And then the next day we would go again. So when I grew food, my pivotal moment growing food in Alaska is that I remember it was butter crunch lettuce.
Oh.
And my friend said, "Oh, I love this lettuce." She grew up in a farm family. She was like, "It's the best." And I was like, "Lettuce is all right, whatever." So then, I'm all jaded, cynical New Yorker in a, tiny town Alaska with my lovely farm friends. And and I tried this butter crunch lettuce and I think I froze in time.
Yeah.
I went, "Wait, this is crunchy." And it melts in my mouth and it's got a really good flavor. Lettuce doesn't have a good flavor. Lettuce doesn't taste like anything. It's usually awful. And I said that my friend was like, "Why do you look so confused?" I was like, "Because I don't know why this tastes good." She was like, "What do you mean?" And then I said, "Can you hear the sirens?"
Yes, I can. I love it. New York
Earlier
City
before
in
you
the
got
house.
on, one of the things that I said was, "Hey y'all, it's New York City. That's not just for the movies. It really happens."
Yeah, so true. I
Um,
mean, lettuce is a powerful thing too, because I remember one of the first things we grow with the children in the I Dig to Learn gardens are different lettuces. And I remember one
yes.
young kid saying, "Wait, wait, 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 wait." She was pointing to the lettuce in the
Yep.
soil and she said, "Wait, is that like lettuce?
Yeah.
Like the lettuce in the store?" And I'm like, "Well, why don't you try it and see what you think?" And she ate it and she was like, "Well, it tastes like lettuce, kind of, only better and fresher." And I was
And
like,
that's it.
"Exactly. That's it."
That's it.
And
And
that's the light bulb, right? Where you're
it
like, "Wait,
is.
somebody grew your food on a farm, traveled it, trucked it to
Yep.
your supermarket, who stored it. Hopefully it got to you before it spoiled." And that's a lot of travel time when you could literally grow it if you're so lucky to have connection to the earth and a little bit of space. You could even grow it on your windowsill in your apartment with that light, and that is immediately fresh with all the nutrients that is inherent in the seeds that you planted, and it's exciting.
No, you said it. I actually did that. So what I think there were two things that happened to me that day was one, I found out that it wasn't that I didn't like lettuce, is I didn't like lettuce from the grocery store. That was one thing that I found out. And
Yeah.
that two, a bigger point was that it wasn't that I didn't like vegetables. It's just that most of the vegetables that had been eating, unlike when I lived in Chile, and that was the point, that in Chile we would go every day. I mean, we had my grandma; she could do it. But the food was local and it was fresh. It was vibrant. It was in season. And then what I understood in that summer of growing my food is that it wasn't that I didn't like vegetables or lettuce. It was just that what I had been eating had traveled way too far. All the things that you've said. So I've done the same thing that you've done with your students, with my students, and had that thing with the lettuce experiment. It's not really an experiment, but it's that lettuce experience.
Yeah. I mean, the food, when you start thinking of food truck miles
Yeah.
and how far things go. I mean, we're also really big on sustainable practices, and I hate that word sustainable because if someone asked you like, "How you doing in your relationship?" and you're like, "I'm sustaining," you'd be like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." So I really don't like that word, but I would say like rejuvenative practices or restorative practices. Part of that you helped me with permaculture is we're not just growing food in a garden, we're looking at those connections. So once you have
Yeah.
a plant, like I brought my little favorite plant over here, my little rosemary,
Oh,
um,
nice.
because rosemary has a special oil in it that when you squish it, as every herb, you have to kind of squish and squeeze it to release the oils. when you smell it, it's scientifically proven to sharpen your brain, sharpen your focus. So I'm doing that now, so I'll be really focused, right? But
Okay.
anybody can do this, and they're using it with memory loss now, the power of rosemary.
So
But there's
cool.
so much power in understanding that, okay, guys, we're not really just gardening. It is the anchor to hook you in to know that that plant has benefits and the bird needs it, the butterfly, the local native bee needs it. So it's those connections. And I think with you and permaculture, you are
Yes.
always kind of talking about those connections, using whatever came from the land can go back to the land, right? And so we're really big on food scraps for compost here as well.
Yeah, no, thank you for saying that. I'm glad. I'm a little proselytizer, so.
I know. I was like, am I a plant apostle? Maybe. Maybe. I didn't
Yeah.
mean to be, but those are the connections. So now with I Dig to Learn, we are kind of using the first word in your beyond, like beyond organic design. We're taking that beyond, and we are beyond just youth, who are
Yeah.
amazing, and we are young at heart too. So what we discovered later is that, when I Dig to Learn brings programming into the hospital setting or the older adult center or the folks that have come out of work and are exhausted, when we're bringing in that plant knowledge, that butterfly knowledge, that bee
Mm-hmm.
knowledge, what's happening is that every single age wants to learn, right? And
Yeah.
this is an endless field where you're never going to know it all, which is really exciting. But I remember one of my first events, we were planting out, beautifying the neighborhood, and a mom came with her infant baby, right? And I was thinking, oh goodness, I don't know if the baby can plant because I don't have a shovel that's little enough, a little trowel for the little baby. And then I realized, no, that's not the point. The child is with their parent and is watching, even if the child is like 5 months old, looking, seeing the
Right.
activity, seeing others do, smiling, feeling good. They may not actively dig a hole, but they are absorbing all of those good, healthy vibes from
Right.
other people just having pure joy. And why are they having pure joy? Because they've connected back to our nature, the land, the sea, the sky. So it's been an amazing run, and I'm so honored that you even asked to talk with me about this, really, because you're like a big deal. So
Oh. Well, that is very kind of you to say. I definitely don't think of myself that way, so thank you. Um, we've talked about. I was I was actually just looking for something in my computer, but I couldn't find it. But you were telling us a little bit about how you went from Muppets to plants, which is
yeah,
wonderful.
puppets to
And
plants.
also,
Yeah.
yeah, I love that. That's just the best. I'm going to use that anytime I tell anybody about you. I'm going to use that. And then you've also talked about like parts of the programming when you started, and you told me, and you said a little bit about how you got started because you did I Dig to Learn while you were still working as a producer.
I did. I did. I really did. Yeah, that was an interesting balance. And I kind of feel like no matter what you're passionate about, it can be anything. It will keep tugging at you. So
Yes.
as a child, I had all those experiences with my grandfather, my grandmother in the garden, and my father, of course, being the child of my grandparents. He also grew a lot when we were in Northern Virginia, and so that's way back there. So I had a dormant passion for it, right? And so I think
Right.
that whatever you're passionate about, you can kind of do a whole career. You can do other things. In my case, television producing and really working with the beloved Sesame Muppets was a real joy. But what you really see is the passion of the puppeteers doing what they do, which is bringing joy, right?
Right.
So little by little, during my lunch breaks, I would go over to the Society, the Horticultural
Yeah.
Society in New York,
Oh, they're
and I would like,
lovely.
oh my goodness, I would flip through different jobs in the industry of nature and outdoors and gardens. And I remember the woman who showed me the resource books, and she was like, "So what are you doing? What do you want, really?" And I said, "I just want to be outside. I want to be with children. I want to like enjoy nature and everything around us." And I told her what I was currently doing as a producer, and she said, "Oh, it'll come, you'll get there, Years went by, and that didn't really line up, but then it did. And it was just a small tug. And, having a friend that really saw what the joy was. And, for me, it's what are you good at? So I'm really good at organizing. I'm really good at pulling people together. I'm really good at connecting with children. And I know a lot about plants, not a ton, but I learned and I love it. So that, having a friend that can recognize in you, hey, I think this grant opportunity is worth filling out, try it. And then having so many people in the neighborhood that were like, yeah, because you could have a grant, but if you don't have any place to play, what are you going to do? Right.
Yeah.
So, walking around and really looking. And I feel like a lot of this has to do with observation. So I was walking around and I found an underutilized courtyard that had once been a space for teaching. But, things change and people don't use it. And I'm like, okay, if they're into it, I'm into it. And let's revive this. It's got the bones. It's beautiful. And just the fact that a lot of people can recognize joy and excitement in other people and then be connectors and oh, go down the street, meet the public school, they might be into it, those kind of things. If I had been shut down in the beginning, I don't know, I don't know where I'd be. I wouldn't have the kind of joy that I'm allowed to do now and share. So I really want to shout out and thank the early adopters who were just like, go for it, just do it.
Yeah, definitely.
You were one, so thank you.
Oh, well, I think that I saw a kindred spirit. I saw that it was something that moved us both, right? And that we felt a calling, if you will, to do it.
Yeah. Now it's undeniable. If you think about putting together a production, that's about 150 people building a world and, making characters and storyline be believable. So it's a lot of energy, right? So then now I think of myself and I'm like, okay, so you have the producer power to get anything done, and you know how to figure out the budgets and make dreams come true with every line item and pull people together and work on a big team. But how do you really want to use that energy? And for me now, it's only for nature, really.
Yeah. No, I get that. I get that. I think you and I do some similar work. So we have an innate kind of integrated, maybe just like in the cellular understanding of how this works. But I want to go from take it from us and move it back out a little bit more. And I was curious, for those who maybe aren't as familiar with how this work can impact communities, I have a question here. It's what are some of the biggest environmental and climate challenges facing us today, and what actions does your organization offer to address them?
Great question. Thank you, Monica.
No problem.
I was actually thinking about this because I kind of feel sorry for humans. We're very fragile.
Yeah.
We don't have fur, so we can't really stay warm. And a few temperature degrees colder or warmer or hotter can actually be our demise, which is a shocking thing to realize how vulnerable humans are. But we have this giant brain, right? So when I think about climate change, it's difficult because there are so many factors and it can be very confusing. But using my children's television know-how, I really just break it down into resources, right? So we as humans need to eat food, and we as humans need water. And that goes for a lot of living things, not all living things, but for the most part, food and water. So what do you need to create food and water? So I consider those our resources, right? And when you need, if you're doing soil-based growing, which a lot of the world does, you have to rely on land, right? And then you need water to take care of those crops. So food and water, since we're so dependent on that, it's really a problem in the sense that, I mean, I was watching a survivalist woman talk about, don't worry if you get lost in the desert, you can go without food for 30 days. I can't. But she says you can't go without water for too long. And I know countries are going all over the world and trying to buy water rights and land with water. And so for me, climate change is really access to water and food. And what happens when I'm obsessed with Madagascar, and I have a lot of friends there, and someone who runs like a lemur institute there. So someday I hope to go. I don't know, but at least I can research a lot about Madagascar. And there was a flood. There was a flood down in the southern. I mean, a drought down in the southern area of Madagascar. So growing food was not possible. So when you can't grow food, then you have to leave an area, or if you don't have access to water, you have to leave an area. So that has a lot of population going to another place that may or may not be ready to receive. So I think that when I hear about climate change, I think about resources. And so what our organization, what I Dig to Learn is doing to try to really focus on that is education, right? If you don't value the food that you're eating and you don't recognize the water that it takes to create that food and the fossil fuel or whatever fuel you're using to transport that food, that is kind of the first awareness step. So if we can just value every bit of food we have, and I'll tell you a little bit later about some initiatives we're running, but basically, if you can value food by working together and understanding what it took to grow that food, and maybe learn how to cook more of it and not waste it, or take those scraps and make compost to plant again, that's a very local level of action in the sense of that awareness, that education, and then putting it into practice. So I really start there. I had an incredible opportunity before the pandemic to go to present at the United Nations, and that was like a highlight of my life. And I'm so grateful
Absolutely. That's
to the
so
people.
cool.
Oh my goodness, it was amazing. They're like, okay, we want a panel. You can lead it. You can pick who you want. What do you want to talk about? Something about sustainability or rejuvenation, as we like to say. And we pulled together people from the restaurant industry. A student came from the UNIS, United Nations International School. We had a movie producer come, someone who worked in green roofs and parks. And so we had cross
That's a great
industry.
mix.
Yeah, it was amazing. Cross industry. We even had this amazing woman, Tama, who she foraged wild food for restaurants in New York. So basically, all to say, it isn't just your plant people friends. It's every industry and every connected, everyone who's working toward anything from building roads to running restaurants to farming to fashion industry. There is something that you can do locally in your realm of control. And that could be just your apartment and how you decide to compost your food scraps every week in the garden. So I think that our motto there was start local, go global. So that's part of what our organization is trying to enhance and get people excited. I'm not an expert. You don't have to be an expert. You just have to find a few friends and see something that you want to do and change. So go local, start local, go global is kind of our method. And I can
But
tell you about initiatives later.
it's a
But
great method, I think. A
I mean, think
great
about it.
method.
There's going to be like 9 billion people in the world. If every one of those 9 billion did one thing, like compost their food scraps or whatever, one local thing, that we're done. We're solved, right? So
Yeah,
per,
no, I hear you.
personal responsibility. I'm big on that. Just do what you
Yeah,
can
I mean,
within your realm.
us being
Yeah.
able to do, us being able to do what we can.
Exactly,
Yeah,
exactly. And then that trickles out, right? So like
yeah,
if you have influence, if you can talk to others, if you have a voice at your job, if you are an elected official, if you
mhm,
are able, just start talking about it. What can we
right.
do? You know?
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. Uh, so my tripod broke today,
Oh,
and so
hi,
I'm
tripod.
trying to. I know I'm trying to right now. You're on a stack of books.
Oh, you
Hey,
look
problem
great. You look
solving,
great.
quick on my
That's what
Chilean
we have
tea.
to improvise, right? We have to improvise.
That is the truth. That is the truth. But that is really cool. I love that. I think I remember when you were doing that, and I think for me, I definitely agree. Definitely agree with what you're saying. And this is something. This is a. I want to give a shout out to Maureen Lohr, who is our PR person, and she put together some questions, and they're great.
Yeah.
And one of them is, do you? I mean, you might have touched upon this a little bit, but do you currently have, or have you in the past incorporated environmental themes into your work as a writer or a filmmaker?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, thanks, Mo. Great questions. Appreciate that. Um, you know, I can somebody was running zero waste workshops, and for those of you who don't know what zero waste is, that's kind of like being conscious of all the waste that happens in your day to day, the products you buy, your day to day habits, from shampoo to food packaging to fashion. So I remember Nicole, she said, we're on a zero waste journey. And I'm like, journey? What are you talking about? And she would even say, pre zero waste journey and post zero waste journey. So the question is, did we, in television production and movie production, did we always consciously shoot in a way that was good for the environment?
Right.
And I can say that there is a turning point with me where I was absolutely not conscious of how all of our daily actions impact, positive or negative, the planet and I like to not even make it as big as the planet, like water, land, air. And we were shooting. Who were we with? It was a chef that was a chef at the White House, and he was Chicago based. And we were going to shoot on location in a farmer's market. And if you know about Chicago, they are and were ahead of the curve on understanding plants in big cities, understanding green roofs, cooling, heating, and air conditioning units. Chicago was doing it. So we were with this amazing chef, and he had been the chef, I think, in the Obama White House. And we were going to their farmers market. And so, you set it up, you have him shopping before he's cooking to make a meal. And we handed him a bunch of plastic bags. And he looked at us like we were insane and, that we had gone totally bananas. And he said, we're not going to have plastic bags in the shot when I'm shopping for this food. We can bring reusable bags. I have them. So I remember listening to him and saying, wait, what? And so he was saying our actions are important, as simple as bringing your own bag to do your grocery shopping. That makes a difference. And then, like, fast forward years ahead, and I was working with the Producers Guild of America as the co-chair with my best buddy Claudine, and we were head of what they call the Green Committee, and this job was tasked with reducing waste in television and film. And this is a big deal because, there's a lot of waste, and in every industry, not just television and film and media. But I remember finally understanding what chef meant.
Mm.
He meant plastic is everywhere. It's in our lives. It's sadly in our water and our food and our fish right now, which is very sad and another topic. But he said, think about your action. He was saying without saying, think about your actions and what they mean and what they do. So the short answer is no, we were clueless. And then somebody shared something they were doing that was like an aha moment that we could do better. And then later, professionally, being co-chair of this green committee for the East Coast, we started to really research it and say, oh, so if you have a set, you can use the lumber on one side for your set and then have it modular and turn it around instead of throwing it away and use the other side of the lumber for the other set. Or you can give everyone on the crew a reusable water bottle and they can bring that TV show to TV show as they go. Or you can bring in a hybrid fleet of cars or have trucks not idle or turn off computers and lights. So we learned a lot, and it was great. I'm pretty sure those videos are somewhere. We did a video on Madam Secretary's work behind the camera.
I think you showed me that one.
A long time ago. It was a while ago, but they're still out there on YouTube somewhere. So Madam Secretary, Sesame Street, and then we pitched HBO. And we said, listen, you have a pilot show coming. It was with Sarah Jessica Parker. And would you be into trying low or zero waste on your show? And they said, yeah, you know what? We'll try it on the show. We'll see how it goes. No promises. So we put into place these practices, and HBO then was so successful because when you reduce waste, you also reduce costs on your bottom line of your production. They applied it to every single HBO series, West Coast and East Coast. I mean, now that's it. They tried it once on a small pilot show, and they adopted it. So I think that now what my favorite part was that the writers started to write in on camera best practices. So when you saw an actor, they were walking, like you're drinking out of a mug right now. When you saw an actor on an interior scene, they had mugs on the table, not plastic water bottles. Or if somebody was walking on the street in an exterior location shot, they had their water bottle and they just tucked it into their reusable bag. So the water bottle didn't have a line and wasn't the star, but they had a cameo, if you will. And it's just kind of like smoking was all the rage in the movies, and then it wasn't. And so, the writers really have a very big play in this. And so, short answer, no, we didn't do anything. And then, yes, we got wise to it quick. And then you can't unknow it, right? Once you know how wasteful something is, you're like, and I'm like this close to picking up a banana peel when I walk down the street and thinking I can compost it later. Probably I actually have done that before, but it's great. It's great to learn this. And like I said, no one has to be the expert. There are plenty of people out there that are, and just tap into them.
Well, I love that because I think that one of the things that I remembered when we spoke and when we went to that the premiere of the movie with Al Gore when he was there in person was you were telling me about the zero waste work that you were all doing and the green committees and all this. And I thought that was just so wonderful and necessary. The film industry is huge. So
it's
when we
huge.
talk about
I think it was $11 billion industry in New York at the time.
I know.
I know, right? And so, I just want to add one thing. What was really cool is back then there was, I guess it still is, the Mayor's Office of Media and Entertainment, and they wanted to. The Producers Guild pitched this idea, and they brought studios and the different unions, the set designers, everyone to the table, and they came up with NYC Film Green, where voluntarily television productions could participate and have an NYC Film Green logo at the end of their credit roll if they could achieve 70% waste reduction. And I think like within the first 2 years, 13 productions stepped up and did that. So good on New York City for like even caring, and good on very busy production folks who are basically like a MASH unit in the Army every day, saying, you know what, we're going to add this one more thing. And what you find is you don't have to buy a gazillion plastic water bottles that are one single use for your summer production if people have the tools they need, and it saves money too. So win-win, right?
You know, I think that you perfectly answered the other question that Mo had set out for us, which was how can the entertainment industry contribute to creating solutions to the world problems? This is how.
Yeah, this is how.
This is everything you said.
I mean,
So,
the one thing I love about media is it is the how far they can reach, right?
yeah.
You've got that audience and that reach. So when there's a will and a way, you can put out this messaging. The one thing I want to shout out though is in Canada, they have climate literacy in the film industry and in their school. So every child going through the school system has a climate literacy course. And, it's too big, climate literacy. What is that? But it's basically understanding and valuing where things come from. So your water, your food, your land, and all that energy. And, these are the, future leaders. And it's permission to be creative. This is incredible. Like, we have a problem. Let's look at it differently and let's creatively solve it. So permission to be creative, come up with something that's like genius. And by the way, you're probably imitating nature, who already had a few million years on us.
A little familiar. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I think a lot of people are doing that in media and other industries, and fashion is trying to get there.
Yes.
There's a company called ThredUp, and you can just pack up your stuff, mail it into them. They give you credits, and then you can get. It's basically an online thrift shop. But think of all the clothes we have, and I know that there's a desert. I think it's in Peru where they're just dumping tons and tons of clothes and letting it sun bleach out there, and it all comes back to respecting resources and being rich and valuing your resources and
that they're
thinking smart, thinking more smart. I mean, humans have the brain, so I'm pretty sure we could think smarter, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, and I think in permaculture we like to say we can design better.
Yeah, exactly.
And designing is problem solving, so
it is
do better. It's sustainable. It can be regenerative.
Exactly. And I think that is when you look at a monocrop and how it's the soil is dusty and needs fertilizer. But then if you think about it, if you had livestock and they're creating manure that can sit for a bit and then refeed the soil. And then if you have a snail problem, guess who loves to eat snails? Ducks. And, then you can get eggs, it's all connected. I guess that's the bottom line. If you had to walk away with anything, it's all connected. We are connected, but we've lost connection. So it's such a joy to bring that back.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think that a lot of what I love about this work is just the feeling of that in connecting to plants, it helps us also connect to ourselves and connect. That's what I've seen work.
Yeah.
Which is so valuable.
It's amazing. I'd love to share one quote and maybe a little bit about some of the initiatives we're doing.
I'm going to ask you about what initiatives you're doing. So share the quote and your initiatives. That'd be great.
Awesome. Thank you for this platform. I really appreciate it.
Oh, of course.
So IDIC to Learn is always running children's programming, whether it's after school or in school or whatever. So we love that. We love that. And then I always try to ask students, what do they like about the garden after they've had a garden experience? And one child said to me last week, I like the garden because I can look about and relax ourselves. And And I was like, yeah, because we're so busy. We're not even allowed permission to look about. Let alone touch, right? So the garden is permission to touch. So every city kid is like, don't touch, don't jump, don't do that. But in the garden, you get to touch and you get to see the worms and the other things. So anyway, I wanted to share that quote because I think it is nice for us all to look about and relaxing ourselves. I think that's really great.
Yeah.
And, a 7-year-old knows best in that case, so I thought that was really special and I wanted to share that with you. There are 2 giant initiatives that I Dig to Learn is doing right now. One is called Seeing the Forest for the Trees, and we are expanding the tree canopy on Roosevelt Island. To create an urban forest. So the concept is looking for these mature trees that are in a park environment and adding baby trees that are native or regional to your area. So we're mid-Atlantic region, right? East Coast. So we planted 100 trees so far with all ages, young and young at heart. And they're the oaks and the sugar maples and sourwoods and red buds, all of which is just to say, if a native tree grew up in this area for millions of years, the birds and bees, native bees, recognize it and use it for shelter and use it for berries and use it for nest building. And if you introduce a very pretty shrub or bush that is from a very far away place, it may be beautiful and is beautiful to humans, but that's not enough anymore. You have to think about your more than human friends and that they are needing those native trees to live and survive, right? So that's our one project, Seeing the Forest for the Trees. And I invite everybody to come out on October 15th to Roosevelt Island in New York City, because this will be the second City of Forest Day, a brand new initiative put on through Forest for All. And that is under the Nature Conservancy. And basically, they, with amazing partners from Trees New York and One Tree Planted and so many people, are really focusing on building the tree canopy in New York by 30%, up to 30% by 2035. So I think it's at 19% now. So we have some trees to plant, but it's not just those baby trees. You must take care of the mature existing trees because they do better capture of carbon in the air and, just expel that little thing we call oxygen. So win-win. So that's one of our initiatives. And then the other one I'm very excited about, since we started with gardening, I was very focused on gardening and growing food and really enjoying plants. And then on the other side, I was working with friends from the garden and this group called Grin, Anthony, to do compost and food scrap drop-offs. And then I was also working to beautify the neighborhood with partners. And I'm like, wait a minute, why am I doing these in silos? I should connect all of this together. And the initiative is called Bellies, Bins, and Beauty. And it's to more deeply value food. So food into human bellies first, and then your lizards and your turtles and your livestock, of course. And if there's any food waste left, that can go into bins to be composted with our friends from Lower East Side Ecology and Big Reuse and all of those guys and girls. And then that compost can rejuvenate and create beauty in your landscape, your trees, your flowers in the city, but also to make yourself beautiful and strong by growing your food again with that enriched, nutrient-rich compost. So Bellies, Bins, and Beauty. We went with BBB, and we've been hosting amazing get-togethers. 35 to 50 people come together for a meal. We have chefs come in. We have restaurant folks come in and teach us how to eat more of our food. And we also just recently had a United Nations cookbook come into our local library and share 75 different regions of cooking and using more of your food, 75 different countries, territories, indigenous farmers and chefs from all around the world. So I would say consciously think thinking about your food and all that goes into it is really, really a great thing to do. So Belly Spins and Beauty, that's one of our big ones. So you can, connect with us on Instagram and find out more about that. And Seeing the Forest for the Trees and learning that a tree is not a what, but a who. And when you learn, oh, did you know your sneakers, the bottom of your sneakers, there's a rubber tree that gives rubber, and that's something that you're walking around every day. So think about the origin stories, the plant stories, the origin stories of things.
I love
So Belly Spins and Beauty and Seeing the Forest for the Trees, forest expansion are the two big ones, along with all of our other work.
I can go to your website and find out more about your initiatives.
I mean, I think you definitely can hop on the website, idigtolearn.org. However, we're out doing so much that I think the better way is to connect with us more on Instagram if you're on it, because that's more immediate. We're out in the field a lot, or with schools, or with hospitals, or youth, or gardens, or senior centers, or adult centers, older adult centers. So we're always out and about. So I think I Dig to Learn would be best to connect on Instagram and DM us if you have other partners that are tree, water, bird, butterfly, plant friend partners that we should meet. Definitely let us know.
I love it. I think that's so, so amazing. Particularly loving and growing. Today. Thank you for all the work you're doing in the world, affecting the lives of all those who are left.
Thank you so much.
All right.
This has been a pleasure.
So thank you to everyone who has joined us and who will be watching this in the future. We hope you enjoy and get inspired like I am with Christina and I Dig to Learn's amazing work and all the ways in which we make the world a better place. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Hope to see you outside. Bye.